Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Great to see all of you again. And just wanted to give you, this is going to be my final thoughts and my review of the TCL NXTPAPER 60 Ultra. Now, before we start this process, I want you to understand what I'm reviewing. I'm not a phone reviewer by trade. That's not something that I do. I look at productivity. I look at using things to be more productive and more organized. Those are what I look for. So I'm not going to look at the full range of specs on this device. I will put those up on the screen several times throughout the video to let you see them and get a good understanding for what this offers. I would consider it a mid-range phone. It's not a full flagship, but to me, I think the flagships have become way too expensive in a lot of cases and overdone. I actually reduced my footprint from at one point the Samsung Z Fold, then to the Ultra, then down to the Pro, and then finally down to just the base S25. To me, this phone, for about the same cost as the base Samsung, offers far more functionality. But the thing that sets it apart, and the reason that I did this video and agreed to have TCL send me this device, because there is no arrangement, there's no quid pro quo. They sent me the device, they said, let us know what you think about it. Let your audience know what you think about it. So this is not sponsored in any way. And they've even asked me to review the upcoming TCL NXTPAPER 70 Pro, which will be coming out later this year, hopefully within the next month or so, and will hit the US market. That's been my biggest reason for not doing a full-on deep dive review of this phone, is because I had to buy a special carrier for it in order to be able to even make it work as a phone. And what that does is it limits my use. People are used to getting a hold of me at my phone number, so I can't daily drive this phone the same way that I would if it was my phone, even though it's got a SIM card, even though it has a phone number. All of my text messaging, all of my apps, all of that is connected to my S25. And I'm not going to port that over into a phone with a different phone number. It wouldn't make any sense. So what I am going to do is, once I complete this review and I get this up and running, I'm going to send this off and give this to someone who can use it and daily drive it, because they're on a different carrier than I am. Now, when I get the 70 Pro, I expect to be able to replace, at least in the short term, if not the long term, my S25 with that, to drive it and really put it through its paces. I've been assured by the company that it will work on all US carriers. And since I am on the Verizon network, even though that's through Xfinity, that's me. I've got to be able to have that function to give this a full accounting. But what I can tell you about this device is that the specs are perfectly acceptable. It is usable. It's got good sound. It's got good video quality. But the thing that I focus on in this review is the fact that it is unique in the cell phone world because it has that NXTPAPER display. That, along with its own, yes, proprietary, but still EMR technology with the stylus, makes it viewable from multiple angles. It makes it a phenomenal reading experience. It gives you eye care modes that help you really take care of and be aware of how much screen time you're using without being intrusive. It's got the simple click button that allows you to switch those modes. And quite frankly, the max ink mode is one of my favorite things ever, because with just a touch of a button, I can limit myself to a total of 12 apps, but 8 apps that are customizable, and then 4, which includes your phone, your text messaging, contacts, and settings. That to me is an amazing thing to have just at the touch of a button, because I can really reduce my footprint without having to go through and customize a custom mode and then remember to turn that mode on. And I do all of that with my S25. And I'm pretty sure you can do something similar on this as well. But then if I want that full Android experience, I can either have full on LCD Android. I can kind of tone it down and have colors, but not so in your face and not so bright. Or I can have a black and white monochrome experience, still full Android and with all my apps. And then I can go into that max ink mode if I really want to save power and I really want to just make this be a companion that is as distraction free as I think you can strip a phone down to be. It's just a really nice, intuitive way to engage with that. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump over. We'll take a look at the device. I'm going to try something out a little different with my camera angles and see if we can get a good picture of that for you. And then we will come back and I'll give you my final thoughts and whether or not I recommend this device. So I will see you here in just a minute. All right, everybody. So we are trying here something a little bit different. I've got two camera angles on the NXTPAPER 60 Ultra by TCL. And I wanted to show this way because of the fact that it's going to get kind of blown out by this top-down camera, so I will pull it up there and show it to you in multiple ways. For some reason, the phone camera just does such a better job of not having it blow out, but I also wanted you to be able to see it, and you can see the way the light diffuses. So if I turn this off, one nice thing about it is I have a very bright light coming down in here, and this is very lit conditions, and you can just see that matte screen really does a good job of diffusing the light and making it look really good. But again, it's going to blow it out if I'm using that top-down shot all the way through, and that's the only thing you're seeing. And that's why I'm trying this out. Let me know in the comments what you think about this approach. I've never really filmed a phone before other than this phone because it's really the only phone that I've reviewed. And I just wanted to be able to give you as good of an angle and as good of an understanding of the device as I could. So let's talk about a couple of things. Right now, I am in the max ink mode, and I've been, I won't say daily driving this, primarily because I don't use this as my main phone because it doesn't work on my carrier. I do have a SIM card in there. I do have a phone number in there. I bought a plan just specifically for that purpose, but it's not been very useful for me to be able to daily drive it because nobody knows that phone number. And I do all of my communication through my primary phone. So that's not going to be helpful. If this was available on my carrier, hands down, I'd switch away from my Samsung Galaxy right now. And I have an S25, and I would replace it with this phone. I like it that much because of not only the size, a little bit bigger than what I'm used to. I went down to the S25 from the Fold, and then before that, the Plus. And so, you know, I've gotten used to a smaller phone, but this one has me rethinking a lot of that. So I'm in the max ink mode, and let's talk about why this phone is unique. I'm not going to sit here. I will flash the tech specs up on the screen so you can see them and take a look at them at your leisure. You can pause the video and see what this phone has to offer. But more so with this particular device, I'm going to talk about why it's different. And the main difference are the three specific modes that you can operate in. This max ink mode is probably my favorite. When I use this phone, I can flip it over if I want to watch YouTube, and it has a very good display, but I can also leave it in this mode. And you'll notice you get very limited apps here. You'll notice here that these along the bottom, these are the apps that are already here, and they stay that way. There are some pre-populated here. If I remove one, then I will only have, so let's just go ahead and remove MSN for now, and we'll say yes. Now, all I can have is a total of 8 apps, and you'll notice that there's a plus key here. Now, I've added my notes, I've added my Kindle, I've added Supernote, so we can go back in here, and now we can add another specific thing. So let's say I wanted to add Discord. Probably won't do Discord in black and white, but you never know. So let's go ahead and add in Discord. And then I just say done. And now I have that as my 8. That's all I get. So it's a real minimal way to engage with your phone. You can make phone calls. I can still text message with Melissa or any other friends that I have and I want to keep in contact with. And I can still, and let me pull this up on this lower screen too so you can see it a little bit brighter. And I can still go ahead and reach out to my different contacts. But I could put email on here. I could put any of my apps as long as I stayed within that 8. And then this, I think, may be a little bit misleading, but it says estimated time remaining 101 hours and 34 minutes. I think that depends heavily on use. Right now, it's not being used. So I think the phone is saying, if you just leave me on standby, and I can verify that this is true. I've left this on standby for several days and it still has a charge. So as long as you're not actively using the phone, that is a tremendous standby time for a phone. And that's one of the reasons that I really, really like this format. Now, what's cool about that is you also get with your key here, it'll go ahead and do that cool animation that we've seen before. And now you're back to a more traditional phone look and feel. So if you pop that open, and now, of course, that top camera is picking that up really well. And you can see the camera, or you can see the colors and the vibrancy and all of the things that you would normally see on a phone. Now, what's interesting about that is I have the actual dimness or the lights very low, but I'm in a very well lit space. But now you'll see I have some of the same things. So I still have notes. I can go into notes and I can do different things and pop up. And I've had that test note that I've been playing around with for a while. I can use my gestures and pop back out. It's very responsive, very snappy. But what's really awesome are those different modes. So if I go now back in, and I can pick. And I've covered this before when we did the overview a little bit, but I didn't really walk through why I would use them. And I think that's where the eye care piece of this technology comes into being. Because of the fact that I can see this from multiple angles in a different way than you would be able to my regular phone, which I can't show you right now because I'm using it to film partially. But you get into where you start to turn and twist the phone around, and you're really having trouble trying to keep the glare off and also be able to get a decent viewing angle. But what's really cool about this is, yes, it's not really like e-ink, but in some ways it does simulate paper and even some of the color panels that we see in e-ink. So we were in the max ink mode. I've shown you that one before, but let's go into the color paper mode real quick. And we'll say enter that mode. It's going to do its animation. And what you see here is your background washes out, and it looks very much like you saw in the max ink mode as far as the background. It takes away the distractions. It takes away the background vibrancy, whatever you would want to call that. And it focuses directly on the notes, or directly on the images and the icons, giving them enough of a pop of color to really be noticeable, but not quite as vibrant as what you were seeing when you were looking at that full-on bright LCD experience. And I think that can really be a useful tool to have when you don't want to be staring at a very bright screen at you in your face all the time, and yet still have the possibility of doing a lot of different things on here. And so, you'll see I've done all my little sketches and all my little writing tests, and the writing feel on this is really good, and much better than I thought it would be, actually. And I can disable touch input and go into writing mode. And when I do that, all it's going to do is allow me to touch to move, but it won't let me write on it with my finger. And I think that's what's really neat about this. So then you can minimize here. Let's hope the camera picks this up. It may not pick it up as well on the top down, but hopefully it will on this one. I want to say I want to write. That writes really well, and the latency is not bad at all. Hopefully you can see it on the top down, if not from the side here. And if you look at it, keeps up really well with the pen strokes. And of course you can use color on this, and you'll be able to see that color because of the fact that it's still in a color mode. Now it's not the exact same color mode as what you would have. So let's go ahead and let's do a red. And then I can write here is red. And then if I go back to that other color mode, you're going to notice that that's going to pop more now. And you're going to have a different look and feel here. And I don't know if that came through as well on camera as it did for me when it popped in, but it's really just an amazing way to think about that and a way to use it. Now, there is yet another mode, and I want to show you that one as well. So, for example, let's go ahead and go back to our screen here again. So we had color paper mode, and now we have ink paper mode. Now, what this does is just make it a black and white, almost monochrome display. Not quite max ink because you get everything else is the same, but you do get a black and white contrast, and it gives you some nice lighting. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see your colors. You can still pick them, but you're going to have to kind of guess what these are, and it may tell you, it may not, and it doesn't look like it does. So you're guessing a little bit on your color palette, and I don't think, it's not going to tell me what that is. So the more that you do that, the harder you'll get used to it, but it may take some time. And of course, I can write hello, and you can see that latency is really good on this. So those are kind of the different modes. This one is really good if you want the full Android experience. So if I go back now, I've got all of my Android apps, but I have it in different format that is easier on the eye and a lot nicer to be able to engage with. And so, I mean, that may be a me thing, but I really enjoy it. And I think it's something that adds value for this type of a phone. If you go into settings here, and one thing I do want to show is the NXTPAPER zone. So if you go into NXTPAPER zone, it's going to give you a little bit of information on what the mode switch, and I'm going to turn off the sound just so that we don't keep having that going on. And then you can turn on your NXTPAPER key. But if you go into iCare, and this is what I really find interesting. So I'm going to hold this up to this main camera here, or not the main camera, the secondary camera. And I'm going to go through some of these settings. So iCare, the alert capsule shortens after 2 seconds and can be touched to expand, swipe left to remove the alert. And then the night light alert capsule can be touched to turn on the light, and you can swipe left to remove the alert when the light is on. So what's cool about this is there's a rest your eyes section here. It says, alert to take a break from looking at the screen once the set screen time has been reached, which I like. A continuous screen time of 2 hours, rest periods 10 minutes. You can customize those. Alert mode. Proximity screen, which I think is really nice. Alert when your eyes are getting too close to the screen. I don't know about you all, but sometimes I find that I'm holding this up to me and getting it really close to my face. Lying down alert, for when the device is lying down, and it requires the camera permissions for that. And it does increase the battery consumption if you do that as well. And again, just some other things. Alert for device in a shaking environment, bright environmental alert, dark environmental alert, night light, an alert to turn on the night light when ambient light level is too low. So it can do a lot of different things here to be able to help you. But let me tell you one thing that is probably my favorite part of this, and I've mentioned before that I actually enjoyed reading on this device more than I did the book's Palma. And I have the Palma 2 Pro, so it's pretty much an apples to apples comparison of, it's got color features, it's not going to have the phone features, but when you're looking at talking about the reading experience. And I kid you not, I'm going to go ahead and pop back out here again real fast. And again, isn't that a beautiful screen? I mean, take a look at that screen and how it diffuses the light. I mean, I am right on light there, and you can see the light on it. Just look at the glare coming off of this plastic versus what's happening on the screen. It's really amazing when you think about it and how well it is diffusing that light to make itself a really beautiful texture. But one thing I do want to talk about, and I think is really important about this device, is the reading experience. So let's go ahead and pop into Max Ink mode again, and we'll go ahead and pop in there. And yes, I want to go ahead and turn that on. It's going to go ahead and do the animation. Now, I mentioned Kindle, and I mentioned that Kindle is a great experience on here, and it really is. Let's go into our library. Let's go into Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, which I am almost done with, by the way. And let's go ahead and look at this. Now, I don't know if it's coming through as well on camera, but this looks absolutely amazing. And the text is vibrant. It's very clear. It's not overwhelming. I love to read with this in bed because the light sensor on this, and I think that's the key here, the sensor they're using, whatever that sensor is, does such a good job of dimming the light to just the right amount. I don't have to fiddle with it. I don't have to do anything crazy with it. It just works. And I think that that's something that the Palma doesn't quite get right, at least for me. Again, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because it's going to depend on you and what you like and what your experience is and how much light you need to be able to comfortably see. But the contrast is so good on this, and it's so crisp and it's so clean that when I'm laying in bed and I'm reading with this, I'm much happier than when I am the Palma. Don't get me wrong, the Palma is not a bad experience, but I have to fiddle with the front lights to make it look. Even then, it doesn't look as good as this. It looks good, and I read with it quite a bit when I was out of town last weekend and enjoyed it, but it's just not to the level of this. And also, if you go back, just this quickness of animations is just amazing. I mean, look how fast that moves. And you're just not going to get that on an e-ink screen. All of that said, I would much prefer to read on a 6-inch, and I know this is a 6.3-inch diagonal, but I'd much rather read on something 7 inches or bigger. So I really enjoy the Nomad for reading. It's one of my favorite size devices. Also, the MobiScribe Wave is an excellent reader, and I enjoy both of those. They do a great job, and I'd prefer that size. And of course, my Kobo Aura 1 is my go-to reader for everything. But why is this device so important, I think? And what's coming out soon, and hopefully I will be getting, is the NXTPAPER 70 Pro. And the 70 Pro is smaller than this one a little bit, I believe. I'm not sure if it's going to come with the pen case. I hope it does, because I think this stylus could be a little bigger, but overall is a good stylus. And the fact that it fits right into this package is really nice. Now, it is heavy when you do that, but you've got good cameras. You've got a nice look to it. It feels like a notebook. To me, that's what the Palma was going for, and it does okay. I don't care for its case as much, but this does a really good job, I think, of doing exactly what you would want it to do, and at a budget price. I mean, this is not going to cost as much as an S25 Ultra. It's just not. It's not going to cost that kind of a segment. Now, it's not for sale here in the US, so the prices that are down in the description are for the EU market, and so that's going to change things a little bit. You can purchase it, and you can run it on some US carriers. As a matter of fact, as soon as I'm done filming this is going to go somewhere else, and it's going to live with someone who can run it on the same carrier that I'm running it on, or one close to it, and hopefully be able to make really good use of this. But let's talk brass tacks as far as a phone. And like I said, I'm not going to go through all of the different pros and cons of it as a phone, or I'm not going to discuss Android phones. It's an Android phone. If you have an Android phone and you've used one, this is going to give you all of the things that you are used to using. Obviously you can run Kindle here too. You can set up your swipe gestures. You can have the navigation bar along the bottom. You can have all of your different apps. Everything works. If you go into Discord, you'll be able to open that right up. It's just a really good tool, and it works really well. I have yet to find anything it can't do from that perspective. The camera is, I keep hitting the off button accidentally. That's a me thing, not an it thing. If I was daily driving it, I don't think I'd have any issues. And I did use it quite a bit. Melissa and I texted back and forth to test it and to try it out. But it has a lot of really cool stuff. And of course, I have my Libby account hooked up to it. But the cameras, I mean, you get a nice, and here we can look around at the camera, and you get a lot of different options for the camera as far as, pro mode. It has good color. It can scan. It can do Google Lens right built into the camera. But again, of course, you get, your portrait mode, your photo mode, video, slow motion, normal, and time lapse. So again, I'm not somebody who's going to go through and review the cell phone as a cell phone. I'm reviewing this more as, if you're expecting a decent cell phone, you're going to get that with this. And you will see the specs. They are quite good. They're not, it's not got a Snapdragon 8 Elite chip in it or anything like that. But what you need to do on this phone, you can do. And what the added benefit and what the biggest component of it is being able to have that eye comfort, that eye care, that NXTPAPER screen, that feel of that NXTPAPER screen. That is something that is just totally different from a phone experience. I've never had anything like it. And I think that's what I'm really encouraged with. And I think, as I've mentioned before, this is pushing phone manufacturers to start thinking more consciously about eye health, screen, reflectivity, all of those different things that e-ink has been doing for people who really need it. So that is my review of this phone. Again, if you were coming in here expecting me to review it like an MKPHD or somebody like that, that's not my jam. That's not the thing that I do. I look at this as a huge productivity tool. It writes well. It reads extremely well. It keeps me focused. It can run absolutely anything. You don't get any of the trade-offs that you get from an e-ink device from a performance perspective. Is it going to be 100% e-reader replacement for me? No. But would I rather read on this if I don't have my Nomad or my Wave or my Manta than on the Boox Palma? Absolutely 100% yes. So let's go ahead and jump back over. I'll do a quick recap and we will talk about this. We'll tidy all this up. See you in a second. This was a fun video to make and one that I've been trying to get done for a little while because there's just been a lot going on. And I'm very excited to be able to send this off to the next person who's going to take a look at it and be able to bring you probably a little bit more content on using it as an actual phone every day. But I really like this device. I kind of wish they'd have brought this device to the US market because of the fact that I could easily replace my S25 with this device and be happy with it. And I'm saying that as someone who couldn't fully drive it as a phone every day, just because of the writing experience, the portability of it, the fact that I'm not a heavy user of some of the flagship functions on a phone. This would do everything I needed to do and then some. The cameras are good, not flagship quality, but still very good. The specs are respectable. The storage is good. It's just a really good phone. The sound quality is good. It does what I needed to do. And on top of that, you get all of the power of the NXTPAPER screen, the customizable ink modes, the eye care modes, the different ways of shifting between all of that. They make it as easy as possible for you to be able to engage with this phone in a unique and innovative way. Now, that's just my take. Someone may disagree with that, but that's what I feel this phone is most suited for. I'm really excited to get my hands on the 70 Pro, primarily because I want to see how this works if I am driving it every day, but I expect it to be a similar experience. Now, I am a little bummed, and Kit Betts Masters put out a video showing that the 70 Pro does have a little bit lower specifications, but if it's still anywhere near as good as this phone, I'm sold. I think it's that good. Now, for my friends who are in a market where this can be used effectively on all of the cellular bands, I would recommend this phone with no hesitation at all. If you're someone who doesn't really need all of the power of a flagship, if you need extremely high refresh rate, if you need extremely, that OLED, that super vibrant color that you can only get on those flagship devices, this isn't the phone for you. But if you just need something that is kind of middle of the road, still high quality, but middle of the road as far as specs, and has some exceptional, unique features like being able to go distraction free and only have 12 apps at your disposal. And it's really 11 apps plus the settings app. That's a wonderful thing to be able to have. And it's at the click of a button. Press that button slider, you're in. And you can make that a default. So I showed you all 3 ink modes, but the truth is you can pick one of those as your favorite and then just have your LCD and your preferred customized mode. And once you do that, it's just as easy as clicking that button, and you still get your NFC, you still get all of your basic phone features. It does not charge wirelessly. I did not mention that in my review, but I don't need it to. I mean, wireless charging is a nice to have, don't get me wrong. I love that about the S25. I leave it sit on my charger, both here on the desk and some other places when I'm at work, but I don't have to have it. It's not a must-have. And I think that I would trade that for the functionality you get with this device and for what this device actually does. And I think it does what it does extremely well. And having the pen, although a little small, tucked away inside the case is a very good move. I would like to see maybe some redesign of the case, only because you have to open it, and I'm used to having a case that just kind of goes around the back of the phone to cover and protect it, and then I have the phone exposed on the front. But the one thing about the case that is, again, unique is it gives it almost like that notebook feel because of this little strap here and some of those components. Just nice little touches that I think TCL took time to think about. So let me know down in the comments what you think. Is this a phone you could see yourself getting behind? Obviously, I can't recommend it in the US market unless you are sure it's going to work with your carrier. And I wouldn't recommend it, like I said, to a power user or someone who's going to want to be doing high-end gaming on their phone and they need that rich graphics environment that's like really ultra. I don't need that. The games I play don't tend to be that graphics intensive. And so I don't ever push my processors. Even with the S25, I don't push it as high as it can go. But this phone, in the time I used it, did not get overly hot, did not give me any trouble as far as crashing. It worked very well. But caveat, as I've mentioned, I wasn't daily driving it as my only phone. That is what I'm hoping to do with the 70 Pro. So when I get that in my hands, I'll give you that full inclusive review. And that one is supposed to be for the full US market. But overall, excellent, solid device. If it works for you in your market, or if you're in the US and first of all, and you can pay the import fees and however to get it here. If you can get your hands on one and you know it'll work with your carrier, I wouldn't say to avoid it at all. It's an excellent phone. And what it does extremely well, including that reading experience. For me to say that something is better than e-ink for me to read on is a big deal. And I think primarily it's because of that light sensor that in the demo. It's just that good. It matches to me exactly what I need to see when I need to see it based on the lighting in the room and without being distracting to Melissa. So that is a huge deal. But thank you all so much for tuning in. Jump into the comments. Let me know what you think. And until next time, keep on moving forward. I will talk to you soon and have a great rest of your day.